we're going to change gears for a little bit and start talking about Sicilian style pizza, at least New York Sicilian style pizza. When I was in New York a few weeks ago, I went to a few places, and my favorite was this place called Upside Pizzeria on 40th Street. There's a small chain of them. I went to one on 40th Street. And so I'm using this as my North Star to replicate, at least initially. Next trip, I'm going to go to other places, probably go out to Brooklyn and find some. There's some places out there in Bensonhurst I know that are really well known. I'll try some Sicilian slices out there. But for now, I'm going after this Upside Pizzeria slice of Sicilian. And so this is actually my third attempt of making this. I didn't video the first two. The first one I knew was going to be disastrous because I had no idea how much dough to put into this pan. I'm using a bread pan, just a small pan initially as I'm learning and experimenting. So the first time I did it, the dough was like 3 inches thick. I was just so far off. And so the first time I tried it, the dough was like, or the crust was like 3 inches thick. I was so far off. Next time I got it down better, still a little bit too thick, I think. Maybe a quarter of an inch too thick, but it was better. And I've never done this before. I've gone onto YouTube and found out what different guys are doing, and they're doing different things. And so, like usual, I've got to experiment and try them out for myself. And I'm looking for commonalities among different recipes, and just kind of going from there. However, there's differences too. For example, some guys are saying you need to partly bake the crust first. Other guys are saying you don't need to do that. Some guys are saying you got to let the dough rise in the pan and then beat it down and let it rise again for a second or additional. It's like a third or fourth actually fermentation. Others saying it's not necessary. And so the second attempt, what I did was I just mixed the dough together, let it rest at room temperature for about an hour, spread it out in the pan, and let it rise. And then I did not partly bake it. I just put the toppings on and put it in the oven. And it came out decent, but it's not what I was looking for. It didn't have, number one, the top part was kind of just like wet bread, and that's not ideal. It also, the slice of Sicilian at Upside had crunchy layer of the bottom and the side. The whole thing was just like crispy. And I was assuming that was from adding a little extra oil or more oil than I did, because the second time it wasn't crispy at all. It was more just like a big piece of ciabatta bread. So for this attempt, the one you're going to see here, what I did was, number one, I mixed the ingredients together, let them rest at room temperature for about an hour, took it out, balled it up, not into a ball, it's more like an egg-shaped, oval-shaped ball. Let that rest for another hour. And then I spread it out in the pan. And as you notice here, the pan has quite a bit of olive oil in there. And so this is a lot more than I used last time. But I just spread that oil around with my fingers, and then I put the egg-shaped ball of dough in there and spread it out. I covered it up, let it rise for about an hour, and then I punched out the air and let it rest for another hour or so. And then I partly baked it at 500 degrees for 9 minutes. My oven runs a little bit hot, so it's probably realistically like 530 degrees, but my oven's at 500. I didn't take the temperature with my laser thermometer, but after that, I let it cool down, and then I put the sauce on. Now, I didn't have time to make any sauce. Oh, one commonality is almost everybody is reducing the sauce, that is simmering the tomatoes down to get the moisture out. I think that is necessary or ideal for the Sicilian style, or else it's just going to become too soggy. I didn't have time, so I just used a bottle of Rayo's. Put it on there, put a bunch of cheese on, and put it back in the oven at 500 degrees for another 12 minutes. And then when it came out, I put some more sauce on top, because that's as far as I can tell, that's what Upside was doing. Sauce, then cheese, and then some more sauce on top when it came out. and this pizza was really, really good. I'm really close to what they're doing at Upside. The the bottom of the crust and the edges were perfectly crispy, and that's what it was. It needed more oil. Really crispy edges. The overall weight and consistency of the slice was very similar. It's pretty heavy, in between just like the heavy ciabatta type bread and a lot of cheese on top. It's just a heavy slice of pizza, and that was good. I think next time I'm gonna make the dough a little bit smaller, and I don't. I got to do something a little bit different for the oven bake time. I think I'm gonna partly bake it for maybe 1 minute longer, for 10 minutes. And then the second bake, I'm going to do it for a little bit less because that cheese is a little too, well, it's actually pretty much how it was the Upside. I don't like it. I don't like the cheese that gets burned like that, brown on it, because that takes away the stretchiness, takes away the moisture. I'm going to try to get a little bit less brown. So I'm going to do the partly baked for 10 minutes, and then I'll try to do the second bake for like maybe another 10 minutes. See if I can get keep that cheese more white, more moist. But other than that, and the next time I'm gonna crush tomatoes and reduce them myself. Other than that, I'm feeling really good about this. It was still a really, really good pizza. So that's it. Hopefully my next experiment, I'll nail it right on the head, and this will be a pretty quick segment. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.